Happy Friday Night Live, Law Nerds. It's so good to see you. It's so good to see you. Tonight, I have some watermelon kombucha. It is lovely in Middle Tennessee. Let me know what you're drinking and where you're coming in from. We have a weekly roundup tonight with a couple interesting tidbits. There's a lot happening in the law this week, and we're going to touch on it really quickly. And then, I was asked a lot about Fred. We're professionals here. Not tonight, we're not. He's like, not tonight, we're not, Mom. Tonight, we are paw nerds first. A lot of you asked me about what was going on with the LA Times and the State Bar of California with regard to Tom Girardi, and we're going to get to that too. But also, I reached out to Erika Girardi's attorney and asked a few questions and got some answers. And I cannot wait to share that with you. So, weekly roundup, and then the Girardis, and that's what we're doing tonight. Tell me where you're coming in from. It's so good to see you. Let's just get into it. Are you guys ready? It's Friday. It's been a week. I'm ready. You're ready. We're ready. We're going to talk a little bit. If you guys were in the members only chat, and the members only stream last night, oh my, we're going to touch on that just a little bit. For everyone who's celebrating Labor Day weekend, I would normally be in Washington at the Gorge. I did not make the pilgrimage, and it looks like the band may be changing the show tonight because of COVID. So to everyone, stay safe. And then we're coming up on a long weekend, and we're coming up on a holiday weekend for Rosh Hashanah. So lots is happening. I will see you all right after this. Let's go. Hey there. If we haven't met yet, I'm Emily D. Baker, the badass lawyer and everyone's favorite legal commentator. I'm the host of The Emily Show, and I break down the legal shit behind the news and pop culture stories we all want to talk about. I have been a licensed attorney for over 15 years, but this is not legal advice. I should warn you, I'm a big fan of the cursey words. This channel is where the law nerds unite to talk about facts, not fuckery. It's so good seeing everybody. Are you guys ready for the weekly roundup? Also, Matt Bond is just choosing violence in the chat. And I appreciate it. Maybe we'll put up a poll. Maybe we'll put up a cheeky poll. I will try to get to the super chats, but we have a lot of topics tonight, and I want to make sure we get to our exclusives very quickly. Kim, it's so good to see you drinking coffee in Hong Kong. Hi, friend. It's good to see you too. I am glad to see your name pop up in the chat and glad you're watching on the Facebooks. You saw me at the mall today. Meg, you are always welcome to come say hi. I did go to the mall today. I went to Vuitton today. I saw my friends over at the Louis store. I had a bag out for repair. They do that. It's amazing. And so I was getting my bag back from repair, which I'm so happy for. So you're always welcome to come up and say hi. I was probably like, because once I was done at the mall, it was time to go. Labor Day weekend is the Dave Matthews 3-night show at the Gorge in Washington. Favorite music venue ever, though I have not been to Red Rocks. So, it's up in the air. Devlin salted watermelon whiskey. Cheers. You know how much I love it. Matthew, hey, Emily, how are you doing this fine evening? I'm so good. You found my favorite Old Smoky salted watermelon whiskey at your job. You're going to have to get them to let you taste it or get you a small one. It's delicious. I love it. I'm so glad you have it. And it's good to see everybody coming in. So I'm not drinking tonight because there is so much to talk about, truly. And it's been a really long week and I'm a little dehydrated. So I will make it to Red Rocks someday. Replay crew. Love you. There will be timestamps down below. We have a lot to talk about in the weekly round. Well, we have 3 things to talk about in the weekly roundup. I'm just going to give a disclaimer because I was asked to talk about this a lot. And if anyone chooses violence up in my chat, you know how we are as law nerds. Facts, not fuckery. If fuckery comes into the chat, I'm never listening to you all again. No, that's not true. I will listen, but I will be more cautious. I am going to touch on what the Supreme Court did this week with regard to Texas's law. I am not going to touch on what I think about Texas's law. We are not going to debate Texas's law. Texas's law may still be unconstitutional, but I've seen a lot of media reporting that has made this very big. But I wanted to say what the narrow thing the Supreme Court did, what I think they could have done differently, and then we're going to move on to the rest of the week, the rest of the weekly roundup. So, law nerds, we value facts. And if people choose violence, then we can't talk about the facts. So we're just going to talk about the facts so we understand what the Supreme Court did, and then we are going to move on. So I appreciate you, law nerds. It's never y'all. It's always people who wander in off the street and act like they don't have any home training. That's who it is. It's never the law nerds. It's never the law nerds. It's a passerby who doesn't know what we do here. So I have to give a warning. That's not what we do here. So let's get into the weekly roundup. When we're talking about the Supreme Court, I think it's important to discuss the fact that the Supreme Court has like their regular season, if you will, their regular working months, and then they have their non-working months. And sometimes in their non-working months, they address things through things that are called the shadow docket. And the shadow docket is where we get these midnight opinions that aren't signed. You don't know exactly which judge wrote the opinion. And it is something that is getting used more and more frequently, which also is worthy of critique. And that is being critiqued by justices on the court, by judges off of the court. And that is a conversation for another day, but it is a critique. Should they be using a shadow docket where you're not getting briefing on an issue, an argument on an issue? It is a very real conversation, and it's a conversation that needs to be had because it's one of those tactics that I don't love because normally you want to hear argument. I think, personal opinion, that the status quo could have been left while they allowed this to go through the appellate process. The status quo being this law didn't get enacted. It goes through through the process, goes through the appellate courts, goes to the state Supreme Court, and then gets reviewed by the Supreme Court. That is the process that I would have liked to have seen happen. It's what a lot of the dissent asked for. That's not what the majority opinion chose to do. So the majority said it was a very narrow and very short ruling where they said, we are not intervening yet for procedural reasons, essentially. So this is the ruling from the Supreme Court. This is how I do not know what rule it is because I do not remember that makes the margins like this, but I always look at these rulings and feel like, are you trying to extend the page limit? Because what is with these margins? But I think it is probably so it can be printed in the registrar, but I have not looked into the question, so I did not. They talk about the fact that they were asked to issue an injunctive relief. Injunctive relief means generally stopping someone from doing something. In some cases, it's asking someone to do something. We've seen injunctive relief a lot in a lot of cases. What they said in this case before the dissent is, in light of such issues, they found that the clinics that were asking for the injunction were asking for it against parties that might not have standing. So they were asking for it against parties that might not be the ones enforcing the law. Plus, it hadn't gone through the regular appellate process, and they were concerned about that too. They are concerned about the process of the thing first, saying this has not gone through the process first. So they say, nor is it clear under existing precedent, this court can issue an injunction against state judges asked to decide a lawsuit under Texas's law. So it has to go through their process. They go on to say, finally, the sole private citizen respondent before us has filed an affidavit stating they have no present intention of enforcing the law. So there's no actual issue before the court yet. They say, in light of such issues, we cannot say the applicants have met their burden to prevail on an injunctive or injunction or stay application because they don't think there is standing necessarily here or that it is not ripe yet. They also say, in reaching this conclusion, we stress that we do not purport to resolve definitively any jurisdictional or substantive claim in the applicant's lawsuit. In particular, this order is not based on any conclusion about the constitutionality of Texas's law and in no way limits other procedurally proper challenges to the Texas law, including in the Texas state courts. The Supreme Court said it's not ripe yet. You need to sue in state courts. We are not saying this is constitutional. We are not saying this law will sustain scrutiny. We are saying that you need to start the court process and sue your way up through the courts so that we can properly address it. I think that the dissenting opinions that said, but we could have maintained the status quo and let people sue without this law being enforceable, and maybe that would have helped things. The majority chose not to do that. I would have liked to see the majority maintain the status quo, but maintaining the status quo would be the legislative branch overriding, the judicial branch overriding the state legislature. So the Supreme Court is saying we are not overreaching to tell the state legislature what to do. We are not saying it's constitutional. We are not saying it's okay. What we're saying is you need to sue in the state courts and bring it up through the appellate process so we can tell you if the law is constitutional or not. They made no determination about the constitutionality. They made no determination about the law in Texas. So what the Supreme Court very clearly said to litigants and to others who challenge these laws is this order is not based on any conclusion about the constitutionality of the law and in no way limits other procedurally proper challenges to the Texas law, including in Texas state courts. Go sue. Go sue in the proper state courts, bring it up and challenge your legislature. That is the process. It is not the Supreme Court's job to interfere with the legislative branch of a particular state. That would be the appointed judges, appointed for life, overreaching. Again, I think they could have not let the law go into effect and then sued, but then the Supreme Court would have said, but the law's not in effect. So what would you like us to do? There has to be a real challenge. So this does not overturn anything. It slows things down. It gives Texans the opportunity to either vote out the people who put the law into place or start suing over the law. But it did not overturn any existing precedent. So it is worth noting that those headlines are not all of the story, because this is not a constitutional decision. This is a punt. And this is a punt of we are not going to reach into state law business until it is properly before us. So if you are in Texas and you think this law fucking sucks, vote and support those who want to go to court and challenge the law, because that is what we do here. We talk about the facts, we understand the things, and then we make the change. That's what's happening. So that is what happened with this ruling. If it would be helpful, if you want to read the ruling yourself, I will link it. Let me know. I need to do a document cloud at some point, and I will link it and make it available for y'all if you want me to. So this is a very good question. Can they bring it in federal court? It depends on subject matter jurisdiction. They said this no way limits other procedurally proper challenges to the Texas law, including in Texas state courts. There would have to be a reason of interstate commerce to bring it in federal. So that's what it is. Sophia, I agree. The press does need to report the real facts. I feel like this ruling has been made a way for people to signal without talking about actually what happened. And actually what happened is, hey, you have to go through the state courts. We're not overreaching. And that doesn't surprise me with this Supreme Court. It is a conservative small government Supreme Court. And with that, with a constitutionally conservative Supreme Court, not just an ideologically conservative Supreme Court, They don't want federal government reaching into states' rights business, and they are going to go for less federal government overreaching. And that's really the heart of what played out here, is it's trying to limit federal government overreaching into states' rights. So they're going to address it when it's a real question. It's not a real question yet. And the news has made this something bigger than it is. The law itself is for Texas politics to sort out. The Supreme Court is like, la, 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 that's not our job. Bring it up and we will address it. So this, we will see what happens. So that's what it is. Those are the facts. That's what this ruling says. And Texans, you can vote. We now understand what the law, what the Supreme Court did, and we understand what the options are to go forward. So I hope that helps at least bring some clarity around what the Supreme Court actually did and why. I don't like the way that they went about it. I agree with parts of the dissent, but I also understand. It's the hard thing about being a lawyer. I understand why they did what they did. I don't like the way that they went about it. And that is what it is. And that's really what the dissent said too, is like, we could do this differently. And that's law. We could do this differently. So let's go ahead and get into the rest of our topics tonight are just, well, one's criminal trial stuff, and the rest is just allegations and shade for the evening. So from a heavy topic to allegations and shade, let's talk about the Elizabeth Holmes Theranos jury selection real quick, because I have thoughts on the makeup of this jury. And I don't know, does it help? Does it help? Let's put up a poll. Does my trial experience explaining things like the makeup of the jury and what I think it means help? Like, do my trial stories help? Yes or no? That's because I want to talk about the makeup of this jury and jury selection. And hopefully that's interesting to y'all. And I'm not just like, back in my day, because God, that would be annoying. I'm fascinated by the, wait a second, what? Breaking news, Texas judge just blocked the law. Well, George, and that's exactly what the Supreme Court said they could do. The Supreme Court said, and I haven't looked at the news, but that's what the Supreme Court said they can do. We're not going to tell a judge what to do or what not to do. They have to decide it for themselves. So if that's breaking, we'll find a link later on in the show, because that's what we do. But let's get into the trial-y things and then we'll come back to it, because the judge can block the law from going into effect. And that is a proper exercise of the powers of the judges in the state where we're talking about the thing. So that's how that works. Also, there we go. So there we go. All right, let's get back to I'm fascinated by this trial. I'm not fascinating. Let's go back to I'm fascinated. All right. We're going to swoop again for the timestamp. I'm fascinated by the Elizabeth Holmes Theranos trial. Yes, sometimes I will say Theranos. Sometimes I will say Theranos, like Thanos, because sometimes I will say Silicon Valley. Sometimes I will say Silicon Valley. It's all fake anyway, and I'm doing my best. And sometimes I just absolutely pronounce things wrong. Yep, sure do. So in the Elizabeth Holmes case, a jury has been selected. It looks like in about 3 days. They absolutely had issues finding people who hadn't heard about this case, because this case has been all over the media for years. I gave a breakdown in a video on this channel. Go watch it. And on the Emily Show podcast, if you want to listen to it. So I'm not going to give a breakdown of what this case is about, other than to say it is a wire fraud case over medical technology with a very interesting CEO who is on trial. There are co-defendants. They are being tried separately. It looks like she's going with a defense, and I bring this up because it's relevant to the jury selection. It looks like she's bringing a defense that she was manipulated in a relational violence way by her co-defendant. There are lots of things that point against that. The government's experts point against that, but she is bringing her own mental state into question because it is the only thing she can attack on this case. The evidence of what happened is the facts are a fuck ton of money was raised and a company got to a $9 billion valuation on lies. The technology didn't work. She seemed to know it didn't work. And the only thing that the defense can attack is, did she intend to defraud investors? She knew it didn't work, but was she intending to defraud investors? So she is going to attack intent. He did this, he did that. So it's interesting to look at the makeup of the jury. The jury was seated yesterday. 5 women, 7 men, 5 alternates. The reason there are so many alternates is because if somebody gets COVID or is sick or has to be out, you need a lot of alternates. This trial is estimated to be 4 months long. They are not going to go into deliberations until December. This jury is going to be showing up every single day and having to listen to this case. Here's what's so interesting about jurors is I was hoping that the government would pick at least a decent number of female jurors, because when she is going with a kind of a relational violence manipulation type of defense for the prosecution, women tend to be more critical of those types of defenses. Men tend to be more like, I'm just not sure and it feels icky. I don't know. I don't know if I can speak on it. And this is just from my experience watching jurors and juries interact and then talking to them after my my cases. So when I saw the makeup being pretty well split, men to women, I was pretty happy about it because they'll be able to have a robust discussion, even if there are topics that are uncomfortable with regards to her mental health defense, because women can be tougher and women can be like, look at her in the TED Talk. Look at her in this. It doesn't feel as if this is someone who's manipulated, and read into the text message and things like that. And that's what's going to need to happen. So 5 women, 7 men, 4 months. Opening statements start on September 8th. I'll be very interested to see how long the government goes in opening. This is a 4-month trial. What I would like to see is the government giving a really interesting overview, but not the nitty-gritty details. They do not need a hours-long opening. They need to tell the outline of the story and then spend the trial filling in the details on the outline. I think a shorter opening statement will help, because by the time they get to deliberations, no one's going to remember what the fuck they said in their opening statement. Let's be perfectly honest. It'll be interesting to see if the defense gives an opening statement. They can reserve it till after the people rest. I think they have to give an opening statement. I think the defense will want their version of the story, their side of the story, in the minds of the jurors. What I will be looking for when opening statements happen is, will the defense make their opening statement at the same time as the prosecution, or will they wait until the prosecution rests their case, which could be 3 months from now, and then they are fresher in the jury's mind? Or will they give their version so that the jurors are thinking of both sides of the story when they're listening to the government's evidence? That might mean that the defense needs to decide, which is way too early to do, if Elizabeth is going to testify or not. If she's 100% like, I am going to testify, they might say that in their opening statements. Notice it's not called opening arguments. It's literally a statement of what they believe the evidence will show. It will be very interesting to me if the defense says in their opening statement that she is going to testify, because it is very early in the trial to make that decision. So that's what's going on with the Elizabeth Holmes case. I am going to update you on the trial once I look at the opening statements when they happen on Wednesday. I will do reacts to that over on the Patreon. If you guys were on, first I'm going to ask you to do the YouTube things. We're going to take a minute to talk about things. There are almost 3,000 of you in here. Just do the likey things and the thumbs uppy things and all the things. Now, yesterday we did a members only live stream where I was reacting to things, and YouTube cut my live stream twice. And everybody was like, where did it go? And I'm like, what just happened? um, because I was reacting to content. Putting up content that is Reacts content is going to be a little easier for me to protect my channel and to still give you content in Reacts content off platform. And that is why I started. Well, it's one of the many reasons why we started the Law Nerds community over on Patreon. You are welcome to come join us there. You can also be a channel member here. You will have access to those, but they will also be over on Patreon. That's why there's that Law Nerd tier here, just so you can be a member on the channel. There is more exclusive content, including the exclusive I Have Thoughts podcast over on Patreon. We cannot be platform exclusive these days because you never know when the platform will just be like, nope. So that is over there. You can go to lawnerdsunite.com and it will get you in there. And I will absolutely share the links on my community tab. I opened that early for members only. There are over 500 of you in there already, and we've been having some great conversations. Whenever you join, you get access to all of the past streams. So thank you for your support. It allows me to bring you more stories. It allows me to bring you more stuff because this is my full-time gig. And Patreon does re-up you, not on the day you subscribe, but on the first of the month. So that's why I'm sharing now that's there, because if you join on the first, it re-ups on the first. If you join on the 30th, it re-ups on the first. So yay. That's Patreon. One other thing, just because it's quirky and I thought it was interesting. The Durst trial ended with him testifying. They're going to start closing arguments next week. Yes, I do know the DA who is trying it, but what I didn't realize until I went and watched some of the coverage, because I have not been watching a lot of the coverage of the Durst trial, one of my favorite judges in the entire universe is the judge on the case. And I was texting my friend, I'm like, why didn't anyone tell me Judge Wyndham was on the Durst trial? I miss him. I would have been watching it more. A really great bench officer. So I was really happy to watch some of the clips from Law and Crime, who's streaming the case and that has been covering it on Twitter. Get to see Jeff Lewin cross-examine a defendant is always very unique. There were some very interesting moments in the DA's cross-examination. It's very rare that those accused of murder actually testify, and it was very interesting to watch. So if you guys want more of a breakdown, I'm going to watch the closing arguments. Let me know, and I'll tell you what I think of the closing arguments. That case, God, has been pending for so long. And it feels the same way with the Holmes case. Like, these cases have been pending for just so long. But from good attorneys to what the fuck is happening with this dude named John Pierce. We got into this yesterday on the members only stream, and oh my god. Oh my god. Oh my god. Oh my god. We have to, oh my darling. Oh my darling, what the fuck is going on in this case? We're going to talk about it real quick because there's some new information, because I went down a full ass rabbit hole yesterday. So if you missed the members only stream, you didn't get to see my first reaction to this story. Here's how we got with the PB&J incident, is what I'm calling it. The peanut butter jelly time, peanut butter jelly time, peanut butter jelly, peanut butter jelly, peanut butter jelly in a baseball bat. Sorry. It just, look, his law firm's name is Pierce Brosnan. No, it's not. It's Pierce something with a B. And so I was calling them PB&J yesterday. Somebody in the members only live stream asked if I had seen Saltz's Twitter photo that had him like with the law firm / album cover black and white photo. And I said, you know what? I have seen it, but I'll pull it up so we can all see it. And then he had this story pinned on his Twitter profile. And I was like, oh my God, I heard of this, but I haven't read the whole story. So then I started reading the story, and then the wheels came off. I was like, what is happening? So here's a quick what's happening, and then we'll get into what new information I discovered in a fantastic Law 360 article. So this dude, John Pierce, he is an attorney. He is representing 16 or 17 of the January 6th rioters, insurgents, protesters. The defendants in this case are kind of less relevant than what the attorneys got going on. He also was the former attorney for Kyle Rittenhouse. He seems to be kind of staking his flag in the ground, being like, I am the most conservative lawyer to ever conservative, and these are the causes I take up, and all of that. So he has definitely picked a political side of the spectrum to stake his flag in the ground. Started an organization with Lynn Wood, who has recently been sanctioned for the stuff going on with the election lawsuits. Fired from the Rittenhouse case. We've got more information about that because there are money things there. But the most shocking part of this, to me, well, no, all of it, but the prosecutor in one of these multi-defendant cases had to write a notice to the court saying, by the way, this defense attorney who has at least 16 federally charged defendants either has COVID, is in the hospital. Oh, and he's super, super anti-vax on Twitter, so be shocked. Has COVID, is on, is intubated and non-responsive, or was in a car accident, or has exhaustion and dehydration, or has COVID, is in the hospital and isn't intubated and non-responsive. Why are there so many conflicting stories? Because no one knows what the fuck is going on. And he has gone completely incommunicado with the prosecutors and with his clients. But wait, there's more. So he has, or somebody from his firm decided to step in and start representing defendants in court. But bro who stepped into court is not a licensed attorney. What? Emily, you can't do that. No, you sure fucking can't. It's the craziest shit I've ever seen. So this is the notice, and the prosecutors tell the court, for roughly the past week, Ryan Marshall, an associate with the law firm who is not a licensed attorney, sassy footnote 2, has been appearing in Mr. Pierce's place at court hearings and meetings with the government because Mr. Pierce is unavailable and Mr. Marshall cannot ethically or legally represent the clients. Let's get to the footnote, shall we? Oh, yes, we shall. Oh, yes, we shall. It is unclear if and when Mr. Marshall will be able to obtain a bar license, given that Mr. Marshall currently faces felony criminal charges in 2 cases in the Court of Common Pleas in Fayette County, Pennsylvania. The first case, multiple counts of intercepting meetings with the government. Wait, no, multiple counts of intercepting, footnote, communications and unlawful use of an audio device in court. Intercepting communications and unlawful use of an audio device in court. And then the second case is multiple conspiracy and theft related counts. Yeah, like 15 counts in that case because we Googled. According to public records, the later case involves charges arising from Mr. Marshall's alleged participation in a conspiracy to commit fraud while clerking for a judge on the Pennsylvania Court of Common Pleas. Dude was a law student, hasn't passed the bar, and can't get a license because you have to go through the moral turpitude part of passing the bar, and that's not going to happen if you're pending felony cases. What is happening? So then, we had a Google. We did all the things. John Pierce's law firm appears to be in California. It does not appear he is applied to appear pro hoc vice, which is, hey, Your Honor, I have somebody who's licensed here. Can I cover these cases? It doesn't appear he's like done that yet in DC. But also, his law office is in California. There's a lawsuit regarding the back rent, and the phones are turned off. Like off. But wait, there's more. This comes from Law 360. The court's filing is what they're talking about. The court's filing, or the prosecution's filing, sparked a wave of headlines at many of the nation's largest news outlets, leading to further speculation about what was happening and whether Pierce, who has been known to occasionally disappear for days when he was struggling with substance abuse issues several years ago, was lying about being sick with COVID-19. Or took the millions raised in the Rittenhouse case and yeeted himself. He yoted out of the country. Speculation and hyperbole. Pierce himself did not respond to a request for comment. The dude has been completely radio silent everywhere since like the 23rd of August. The events of the week are just the latest in a series of high-profile ups and downs for him over the past few years. He has boomeranged between various conservative causes ever since his former law firm, Pierce, Bainbridge, Beck, Price, and Hetch, collapsed in a stunning fashion roughly a year ago. The $70 million debt left over from that collapse of the previous law firm has continued to dog him, leading critics and even prosecutors to accuse him of lying to spin his conservative caseload into a money machine by raking in crowd-funded donations. What in the Tom Girardi case is happening with this guy? Okay. Pierce went to Harvard Law School. They teach ethics there, right? Like, right? He was a respected litigator and up-and-comer in the world of big law, which is like the big fancy firms where people are like, oh, I work for Latham. Those lawyers. Making partner at Quinn Emanuel before jumping to Latham. And then briefly holding a leadership role at K&L Gates. Personal problems and increasingly erratic behavior. Dudes. Lawnards. There are articles that say some of this erratic behavior included him getting into fistfights with other associates at the law firm. Can you imagine getting into a fistfight at work as an adult? I mean, unless you're law enforcement, in which case it happens. When you go to work as a lawyer, getting into a fist fight with another lawyer is not really something you're worried about. But if you guys remember the story about the judges that almost fought in the hallway, but I've never seen actually a fight. I've seen threats of a fight. Anyway, there are articles that have reported that speculation again. They say, according to interviews with several former colleagues, and in 2017, he set up his own firm, which later became known as Pierce, Bainbridge, Beck, Price, and Hetch. Pierce Bainbridge experienced explosive growth for more than a year, reaching roughly 70 attorneys on staff by mid-2019. That's a lot in a year, before abruptly collapsing amidst a raft of partner departures, massive debt, and financial scandal. Oh, weird. In which Pierce pledged his firm's future revenues to multiple lenders. Maybe that's why he has a caseload that seems unmanageable to adequately represent defendants in high-profile criminal defense cases. Oh, by the way, has never worked as a criminal defense attorney and is representing 17 defendants from January 6th. What if they want refunds? Where do you think the money is? I have questions. Pierce previously told Law 360 that his own substance abuse issues had also contributed to the collapse. Okay. After attending rehab, he vowed to rebuild in early 2020. We will rebuild. Hello, COVID. Again, COVID has shone a light on the money issues. When the money's a house of cards, COVID is like, hello? Oh, that's not going to work. Even for businesses operating on thin margins that couldn't keep generating income, it collapsed a lot of businesses. So I'm not surprised that he was like, we'll rebuild in 2020, and whoop, here we are. And created a new firm known simply as Pierce Bainbridge PC. Shortly thereafter, in the summer of 2020, he helped launch the Fight Back Foundation alongside conservative firebrand attorney Lynn Wood. The Fight Back Foundation initially vowed to take the far left to court for their abuses of power and apparent reference to defamation suits filed against it. This has to do with the money raised. So please, y'all, it's not about the underlying thing. It's about what the attorney's doing. It's about what the attorney's doing, not about the underlying thing. He began representing Kyle Rittenhouse just a few days after the Fight Back Foundation was founded. Rittenhouse, we know, is accused of killing 2 men and wounding another in August 2020. in a shooting at a Black Lives Matter protest in Kenosha. Rittenhouse quickly became a polarizing figure. Despite having no background as a criminal attorney, what you're not going to do is take a high-profile homicide case. Pierce began representing Rittenhouse and raising millions of dollars through the Fight Back Foundation on the 17-year-old's behalf before things fell apart. He started his own organization to raise money for himself and took on a client that he couldn't hope to represent because he's not been a criminal defense attorney. Defendants are entitled to an attorney who can represent them. Oh, God. The Fight Back Foundation managed to raise $2 million in bail and free him before trial, but Pierce parted ways with the organization as Wood began focusing on the election. In December, Pierce withdrew from the criminal case after prosecutors questioned the ethics, of raising millions for his client despite being deeply in debt himself. In February, Rittenhouse fired him. There has been comment on Viva Fry's channel about it. Robert Barnes is on the Rittenhouse team and has talked about this better than I could because he is directly involved. But there are definitely allegations that this money did not go where it was supposed to go. Again, allegations. Rittenhouse's new attorneys claimed that Pierce's action interfered with Rittenhouse's criminal defense case and have accused him of pocketing much of the money raised on Rittenhouse's behalf. Pierce has hotly contested these claims. And then he started a new American Civil Liberties Union, like the National Constitutional Law Union. So now he's just starting organization after organization and is completely MIA. And no one seems to really know if he actually has COVID, if he's actually in the hospital. No one seems to know. People have said he does, but it still appears that no one knows. So yesterday, judges in 3 of the cases have granted the kind of notice from the prosecution to bring on a panel to try to figure out what to do with these cases so these defendants can still have representation by counsel. Because right now they have a dude pretending to be a lawyer showing up, acting as a lawyer in court who is not an actual lawyer. It's so crazy. We're going to do a deep dive on the podcast on this. I can't even. But what y'all are here for is to talk about the Girardis. So should we just move into that? I'm going to get to a few super chats as we move into that. Don't forget to do the YouTubey things, the likey, subscribey things. We are done with the weekly roundup. A lot happened this week. It is time to get into the Girardi case. All right, let's do a few super chats as we get in. And I've got to pull this up bigger so I can actually read the text because I need reading glasses and they're not here yet. Question: does Ron Richard realize that if he starts a tax evasion discussion as he did on Up and Adam, it will hurt the victims? So you have the banks, Richards himself, and then the IRS, and then the victims. Seems problematic. Yes, no. Mike Megan 919. We will get to that. Seems problematic. Yes. However, there are other reasons I find it problematic that we will get into, but levying those allegations can create other issues. If there is any tax issues there, the IRS is going to find you. We're going to find you. The IRS is going to find it. So him saying it is not like the IRS is going to go, oh, that's a great idea. They are probably already on that. But yes, tax debts come first. So yes, tax debts come first. And then we will do, after we get through this, I will absolutely make sure there's time for questions. We're only 45 minutes in. I will make sure there is time for questions. Absolutely. Because there's going to be a lot of questions about the Girardi stuff. And I'm sure there's questions about the other stuff too. And I will do my best. Are you sneezing? Okay. Back to sleep he goes. I am so fine when he is back here asleep. It is very hard when he is jumping on me when I am streaming. Just a lawyer putting on his gloves for fisticuffs if the glove fits. Call me Al. That's very funny. This is absolutely, Emma, this is absolutely like Fire Festival. This story is insane. It is insane. It is absolutely insane. How is there more? This is wild. It's like I didn't know this was all going on literally until yesterday, and I lost my mind. So this is a rabbit hole we're just going to keep going down. I just and I was on Twitter with Natalie Lawyer Chick. I'm like, I cannot wait to hear her take on it. Um because I want to hear her rage of a criminal defense attorney doing this to their clients, because what you can't do, and even if I'm the prosecutor, I'm outraged on behalf of the clients. The defendants deserve defense attorneys. What they don't need is someone putting the prosecution at jeopardy. I'd be like, wait, whoa, 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 whoa. What do you mean a non-lawyer is coming in here doing these things? They have constitutional rights that have to be protected. Stop it. Um, it's just a mess. It's just a mess. It's just a mess. It's just a mess. Nicole said, I can never trust a lawyer that has any criminal felony charges. You cannot be admitted to the bar with felony criminal charges in most places. So it precludes you from the moral turpitude stuff. I know. I want to see Natalie react so badly because she's going to just be like, what is happening? So we're going to get into Erika Girardi first, and then we will talk about the State Bar and Tom Girardi, because you will all want to hear our exclusive, and it is fair. We are here. It is time for it. If you know someone who wants to know, go ahead and share out the stream, and then do the likey, subscribing things. I'm going to answer this question first because I feel passionately about this. Would the defendants be better off with a public defender? Absolutely yes. This dude does not seem to have any experience as a criminal defense attorney. If you don't have experience as a criminal defense attorney, you can do a lot more harm than good. And public defenders are good lawyers. They get ripped on all the time. There are some that are not great. There are some lawyers in every walk of the profession that are not great. They're not going to steal your money because they're getting paid by the government. The problem for most public defenders is that there are not enough of them and they have too heavy caseloads. And that is a challenge. But most public defenders, they know the prosecutors, they know the system, they know the court, and they know what they're up against, and they know exactly how to do it. It's second nature to them because that's what they do. A non-criminal defense attorney stepping into high-profile, high-pressure cases with a caseload that heavy means that some of those defendants are not going to get the best representation because there just isn't the time or resources. It seems that there isn't even another lawyer in this firm, the firm that can't keep its own phone lines on. It seems like there isn't even another lawyer to appear in court on behalf of these defendants. The person showing up in court hasn't passed the bar and is pending felony charges with regards to malfeasance related to court, it seems. So, yes, they will be. I imagine that the federal prosecutors are fucking pissed and will be looking into that. I would have to look federally, but most jurisdictions have crimes for impersonating a lawyer. So, my feet are cold because this totally blew my socks off. It's bananas. Will this become a criminal case? I think it will be. It's bananas. And if he's got 16 cases here, he has got to have other cases. But from one shady lawyer to another, let's talk about Tom Girardi and his wife, Erika Girardi. Question, are we sure that Pierce is even in the country? No, Tiffany. No, I am not at all. I'm not sure he is. All right, we've got to give a little background on the Erika stuff. I should swoop because I swooped and then it was the wrong swoop. Sorry, tech. Erika Girardi. This season of The Real Housewives has been explosive. 100. Erika's behavior on social media pisses me off all of the time. My opinion. It might not piss everybody off. It seems tone deaf and cold and kind of rude. And it's not a good look. I don't think. She is definitely having a moment on the show. None of that indicates to me whether or not she knew that the money Tom Girardi was spending came from him not paying his clients. I still don't know that. We looked at the financials. His firm was making 40 million a year, 30 million a year, 20 million a year. There was definitely money coming in where she might have been willfully ignorant, or it might have just been, I'm paying the bills. There has been a lot of back and forth between Erika and the attorney that is on this case in the Girardi case, the law firm side of the bankruptcy, the law firm that just auctioned off a bunch of shit, in the law firm side of the bankruptcy, who has been very vocal about the case, and Erika on Twitter. I have covered that a couple times. Erika's attorneys made a motion to yeet Ron Richards off the case. It was denied. They brought a motion to reconsider the motion to yeet. It was denied. They have appealed it. So they have a pending appeal to yeet Ron Richards over the things he has said on social media about Erika Girardi, really arguing that they are ethical issues, that they are improper pretrial publicity, etc. Again, that motion was not granted, and the court did call the second motion, the reconsideration, completely without merit. The court was not thrilled. I broke all those down here. Since that happened, the tweeting has definitely ramped up, and there have been some things that have caused me, and I know I'm not alone in this, but have caused me concerns. The first one is the allegations that Richards made to Radar Online that one of the items on the financials to a DNA Inc. were in fact payments to the clothing line that was Lisa Rinna's kids. And it just didn't seem, it just seemed like that was not a right fit. So let me pull up the Radar Online if it doesn't crash my computer, because sometimes Radar Online does when I pull it up when I'm streaming. But the statement to Radar Online is important because then it got clarified. But Ron Richards said to Radar Online that they have no reason not to believe that the DNA Inc. Of course, this slows down my stream immediately, that the DNA Inc. payments were being made to Lisa Rinna's daughter's company. Though when you Google DNA Inc., you see that it is a music production studio. One of the points on that with DNA Inc. is that Ron Richards and the bankruptcy trustee for Girardi Keese have access to all of Girardi Keese's financial records, and it's alleged that Girardi Keese made those payments. So the person who has access to the records would be Ron Richards. So we have no reason not to believe that went to Lisa Rinna's daughters. Well, you have the financial records, so you can determine that before you make that statement to the press. And then both Erika Girardi's attorney came out and said, no, these payments were not to Lisa Rinna's daughters, who had a clothing line named Delilah and Amelia, and it was sold under another company name. The girls' lawyers came out and said, no, we never received these funds. And then a quick Google shows it's probably from a music video company. So that was kind of the first thing that it was like, oh, that's rough. And Radar Online printed a retraction. They retracted the statement, and good for them. I mean, they were like, oh, wait, no, we have learned that comment by Ron Richards was not accurate. And they published the statements from the lawyers. When I reached out to Erika's lawyer and asked for comment on a few other items, he also emailed back to me his comment with regard to Radar Online. And that comment, just so I can share it with you so you know, that comment was, and I'm just going to read it so I don't get it wrong. First, Richards is mistaken. His statements is another example of Richards and the trustee jumping to conclusions without a full investigation and trying to prejudice Mr. Girardi. And we talked about that allegation from Erika's attorney, Evan Borges, that there was this pre-trial publicity that could be prejudicial. The court said, there's millions of people in LA. How is this prejudicial? It's just a Twitter account. So there's definitely, there's definitely some some bad blood happening about the Twitter activity. The statement goes on to say that there was no payment to Miss Rinna's daughter's company. Further, my client believes the payment was probably to a company called David Naylor Productions or something to that effect for a music video that she did. Even the person on Twitter in the attached tweet figured this out. Second, Richards and the trustee should know better. They have all the records of Girardi Keese, which is the party that made out this payment. We don't have those records, and all that is included with the amended complaint is a summary by payee over a 12-year period. So this argument, I will say, is happening in another court as well. The other two attorneys from the firm who, again, the attorneys not being pulled into this as much, I'm very curious about, but they have pending hearings for an order to show cause on contempt with regard to the payments not being made to the Lion Air Crash family members. And in that, they're arguing we can't defend ourselves unless the bankruptcy trustee gives us access to the records. We don't have access to the financials. We never saw it. So the lawyers from Tom Girardi's firm, in their defense, this includes his son-in-law, David Lira, and the other one, Griffin, saying, we don't know what the books say. We never had access. We don't know where the money went either. The lawyers who owed a duty to the clients from the Lion Air Crash, who didn't tell the court that the clients hadn't gotten paid, also are arguing in court, we don't have access to the records. And this is what Erika's lawyer is pointing out too. The people who have the access to the records are the people who have access to the law firm. And right now, that is the trustee and Ron Richards. Those are the people that have access. Ask them. We don't have the records. So in this statement, he's saying, look, we don't have the law firm records. We don't know what they say. We don't know every payment that was made over 12 years because we don't have access to that information, which, you know, does parallel what Erika said on the show. And I know that people are just like, you know, fuck her behavior. And yes, her behavior on social media, no, not okay at all. She's shown no sensitivity. But that doesn't mean that she had access to what the law firm was doing financially. There are two separate things here. There is fuckery and there are facts. And the fuckery is starting to piss me off. So let's continue. Let's continue with this statement. He goes on to say in his statement, Richards should be more careful before making these false statements about money going to Ms. Renner or her daughters. A federal bankruptcy trustee and by extension, her lawyer Richards are held to very high standards. I wish they would adhere to them. Shade? I think shade. No, it's actually just a statement. It's like, I wish you would just do what you're supposed to do, please. He next says, third, this was a response given to Radar Online. You and other media outlets keep misreporting the facts, including as alleged by the trustee and Richards in their amended complaint. I mean, as long as, again, people are going to report on the amended complaint and say the allegations are that there's $25 million owed. To be clear, the trustee and Richards alleged that the law firm Girardi Keese paid all the expenses in question directly to outside vendors and creditors of EJ Global. Thus, even according to the trustee, neither EJ Global LLC nor Ms. Girardi received any of the money. Also, Girardi Keese managed the finances of EJ Global LLC, not Erika. Thus, please don't say in your reports that Girardi Keese paid the money in question to EJ Global or Erika. Not even the trustee alleges that the money landed in the hands of the bank accounts of EJ Global LLC or Erika. So that is the full statement that was provided to Radar Online. It is very interesting that he points out that Girardi Keese managed the finances of EJ Global. So when she says, I don't know what was going on in my LLC, her lawyer is saying that that is accurate, that Girardi Keese was paying the vendors directly. And that's what was backed up in the first amended complaint, saying these were paid on the benefit of it. So Tracy said, Ron Richards never said the money went to Renner's Girls. He did. He said in a statement to Radar Online, we have no reason not to believe that the money went to DNA ink or DNA, the Rena's daughter's clothing. And I will pull when I close these tabs, I will pull up the exact quote because I have it, and so did Zach Peter. But he said we have no reason not to believe it. Well, you have the records, so you do have reason not to believe that it went to Rena's daughters. It was an intentionally misleading statement, I think. So he did say that, which is what frustrated me really, that he made a statement. We have no reason not to believe. You have the documents. You have the documents. Why continue to try to make fetch happen when it's not going to happen? So I understand the frustration of Erika's attorney in this. So let's get to what I asked Erika's attorney about. The first thing I asked Erika's attorney about was the American Express statements, because I have questions and concerns. I have questions and concerns. This is he says to respond to EJ to discredit our evidence. I don't know what Erika said, and I don't know what this is in relation to. EJ to respond to EJ to discredit our evidence and to answer a popular question. We released two American Express bills. The cards used by Erika were directly issued to Erika Girardi. It was 100% her card, her charges, not a company card issued to her company. The law firm paid the bill. I appreciate the clarification. I think the clarification could have been made without the bills attached, because these are financial records that are not court records that in most cases would be protected. So you would normally have a protective order when you're exchanging discovery, particularly of financial information. I believe that this placement of these on social media came from the law firm. So I asked, did these come from the law firm, or did Erika have them and turn them over in discovery? And it seems that these came from the law firm, but those shouldn't have been made public. Those are financial records, and the statement could have been made without these. Hey, we have all the records. We've released the summaries, because the filing shows the summary of all of the American Express charges. So the question could have been answered without these being leaked. And it could have said these cards were issued to Erika directly. But I think that Erika having a card issued in her name and being paid by the law firm goes to indicate that she didn't know how it was being paid. Did Erika know that this was being paid from the law firm account or from their personal account? This doesn't prove that. It proves how much she spent and that she doesn't tip very well. That's what it proved. But these are financial records that otherwise should not have been made public, I don't think. Emma, can he just put this information out there for the world to see? I don't think so. 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 Erika has a right to privacy in going through this. She is going to potentially be a defendant in this case where she's being sued. I think the question could have been answered without posting financial documents. And if Richards is arguing that Erika's not being cooperative and not giving him more records, this isn't going to help at all. At all. A Centurion black card is impressive. I mean, they were spending millions of dollars on this card, and it seems that there were two, based on what he posted, because this being a Centurion card and another one being a platinum card. But it was my speculation, and I asked about this. It was my speculation that these were gathered from the law firm because all the bills just went to the law firm and then he paid them, and she didn't know how her bills got paid, out of what account. And I don't think that's a question a lot would ask if their spouse is like, I'm paying the bills, because this card was not in the law firm's name. It didn't say Girardi Keese. It was Erika's personal credit card. that was being paid out of the law firm. So I think it kind of goes to show that it's more likely Erika didn't know what account was paying off her personal card. So when I asked attorney Borges, Evan Borges, about that, he said, I quote, I am extremely disturbed by the Richards tweets attached to your email. Oh, because I sent the tweets. I was like, can you comment on this? And can you comment on this? And can you comment on this? Because I didn't want it to be unclear what I was asking about, which constitute blatant attempts to disparage and prejudice my client publicly in connection with a pending litigation where Richards represents a federal bankruptcy trustee. I believe the tweets violate the rules of professional conduct. First, one of Richards' tweets published in an open form of what appear to be American Express records of my client. These American Express billing statements contain private financial information and have not been received in evidence or determined to be relevant by any court of law. Presumably, Richards and the trustee found the American Express bills in the records of Girardi Keese. Richards has no purpose in publishing the information other than to try to disparage and prejudice my client publicly in connection with a pending litigation. Richards either is ignorant to the fact that my client has privacy rights under the law, or he doesn't care and is willing to violate her rights knowingly. So that's their take on it. And he is not happy. Look, when I saw these, I was like, no, you could have answered this question without it. And the thing that makes me mad, because Ron Richards has shared good information and helpful information, and you can do that without stepping into the line of putting this out there and say, these were her cards. We reviewed them. We created the summary. Refer back to the summary. Refer back to the financial documents that we've filed in court, but this card was issued to her for clarity. Fine. That's responding to questions. And even that, most attorneys would ask questions and not respond to them, but I wouldn't take issue with that. The releasing of the documents is what I took issue with. Christy asked again, are the documents public? They are now, but no, they are not evidence. They're not attached to any motion. They're documents that were summarized in the financial records, but those wouldn't have been attached. If they had been attached, they would have been sealed, or Erika's attorneys could have asked for them to be sealed. So here's what I worry about. If Erika is sued over the $25 million, will some of these things that are playing out pre-trial prejudice her in a way that it gives an appellate right? Because not protecting a case from potential appeals down the road doesn't help. It means that all of the money will be spent litigating this and not going back into the bankruptcy court and being redistributed. It also means that, from my perspective, and this is my assumption, if I'm Erika's lawyer and I'm trying to resolve this case, or I'm trying to do discovery on this case, I don't trust that those conversations are actually privileged, that those conversations aren't going to end up in the public forum. So I think it's going to make this take longer because there's a lack of privacy in the proceedings. Because if I'm an attorney looking at this happening on Twitter, in this case, I'm like, I don't want to talk to you. Everything's happening in court. I don't want to email you. I don't want to get on the phone with you. I don't want to talk to you. You're putting my client's financial statements on Twitter? No. And that's going to make everything take longer, which is not going to resolve the issues for the victims in this case, the clients of Tom Girardi who haven't been paid. My perception is this is getting into that win at all cost, everything be damned. And lawyers can't do that. So if he was just commenting on the case, it would be different for me. So let's get into the next tweet that I asked about and had issue with, which was this one. So these admissions of psychiatric medications are not helpful for credibility purposes, and they will not change the evidence we will discuss now live. Look, Erika could have been making a joke. about being in this room. She's already talked about being on Lexapro, but questioning her credibility seems to me to fall into the realm of pretrial publicity that could potentially prejudice her as a defendant. Because again, even though we don't love her behavior on social, she still has rights. It can't be win at all costs when it comes to the law. That's when people cross the line and do shit that they shouldn't do. And that's what Tom Girardi did. And what we're trying to do is not that. So I asked about this one because it did not sit well with me, because it's questioning her credibility in a public forum. If he was just commentating on the case, I would be like, yeah, fair comment, go ahead. But as an attorney that is the opposing party to her, no, you can't do that. So when asking about that, the response to my question was, second, the next tweet publicly disparages and impugns my client's credibility and discusses her mental health in an effort to prejudice her in a pending case. To me, the tweet blatantly violates the rules of professional conduct. Both of Richard's tweets are improper, unethical, and malicious, which is what they said in their motion, which the court did not grant. He goes on to say, and they serve no purpose other than to try to prejudice my client in a pending case. Third, I will send you the inquiry I received from Radar Online and my responses regarding to Richard's false statements about the payments allegedly made to a company owned by Lisa Rinna's daughters. And then he said, for what it's worth, this is the comment that I have given in response to the amended complaint filed by Richards and the trustee, and that has been published. And that is, unfortunately, the amended complaint is another example of the trustee and her counsel jumping to conclusions without full investigation and bullying and blaming Erika for actions taken by Girardi Keese, for which Erika does not, have legal liability. As to the lottery proceed claims, this claim arises out of a publicly filed stipulation, an order signed by Girardi Keese's client and entered into a court of law more than 8 years ago in August 2012. I've told you all how I feel about the lottery stuff. I don't like the lottery stuff, but Erika is not subject to the rules of professional conduct. Tom Girardi is. So if he violated the rules by fee splitting, that's on him. Whether they can claw it back in bankruptcy, I don't know. But then that also brings up the question of whether they could go after Daivd Lira, his son-in-law, and his daughter, who also got lottery proceeds. And that has not come up yet in this bankruptcy court. And I say yet because it has not come up yet. They say the lottery proceed claim is barred by the 7-year statute of limitations in California, which bars any claims arising out of an obligation incurred more than 7 years before the lawsuit is filed. So they're going to argue statute of limitations. The obligation of the lottery proceeds assigned was incurred in August 2012, more than 7 years ago. Accordingly, the claim is undisputedly barred by the statute of limitations, and the trustee acted recklessly in filing it. The trustee did allege in their second amended complaint that the statute of limitations does not toll because they were unaware of it until the bankruptcy came up. They say that if the trustee continues to pursue the claim, we will seek sanctions and all appropriate remedies. As to the so-called EJ Global LLC receivable that Girardi Keese says is owed to it, the trustee concedes that none of the money went to Erika. The trustee also concedes that none of the money went to EJ Global LLC. The trustee's entire claim is based on being able to prove a so-called alter ego liability as to Erika for obligations under EJ Global LLC that were created by Girardi Keese. So Girardi Keese created the issue. It is not personally attached to Erika. So they are going to continue clearly to fight this. They say that the law doesn't allow alter ego claims in these circumstances. We've talked about alter ego claims before when you're like, why have I heard this word? With regard to Teddy Fresh and the Triller arguments that somehow Teddy Fresh is responsible for Ethan Klein fair using a clip of a fight there's videos, but that's where the alter ego claims we've talked about before in my content. They say just because Erika owned 100% of the interest in EJ Global LLC doesn't mean that she has liability for its debts. If this were the law, every time a person sets up an LLC or corporation, they would be liable for its debts. The law doesn't allow such an outcome. Also, Girardi Keese managed the EJ Global LLC finances. GK is the one that set up the receivable allegedly owed to EJ Global. Girardi Keese was managed by lawyers who knew that its claim on the alleged receivable was limited to the assets of the LLC. No one was deceived and nothing improper was done. Finally, the fact that the trustee continues to assert claims based on transactions going back 12 years, which are barred by statute of limitations, is an example of the overreaching and willingness to say and do anything to hurt Erika despite the law. Erika will defend the case and will seek sanctions and all appropriate remedies for the claims brought in bad faith without any legal merit. So we know that Erika's position is negative ghostwriter, the pattern is full. And this, again, the court has said that earlier tweets that were brought before it, they were not going there. They thought that the argument was without merit and they weren't engaging in it. I also talked about some of those being gray zoned for me and stuff that I wouldn't do if I was engaged in litigation, but every lawyer gets to find their own boundaries and their own kind of bumpers on that. The questioning the mental health and credibility and the financial records, you can't. And I just think if Erika's making herself look bad on social media, just let her make herself look bad. She's doing enough. She's doing the most on the show. She has been very focused on herself and how her life is falling apart. And I think that speaks for itself. Like there's no real need for some of this. And it doesn't help the case. And I worry that it's going to get to a tipping point where it hurts down the line. And that is concerning to me. I'm going to get to a couple super chats. Thank you very much, mods. I know as we talk about mental health that there are those in the chat who are like to diagnose. It's not the law nerds. I know y'all know how I feel about diagnosing people. We don't know. We're not doctors up in here. So thank you very much for your respect in the chat. It is hard stuff to talk about because there was so much damage done by the Girardi Keese firm. And Erika clearly benefited from that lifestyle. And if there is money that needs to be paid back, it should be paid back. Her, to pull up this screenshot again, that show, and I was talking about it last night before YouTube got salty with me. I don't know if there's any screenshots from the night. So I'm just going to pull these up because they're here. The jewelry that was on display, the earrings are so heavy, her ears are turned down. The necklace she was wearing was literally carats on carats all the way around her neck. That kind of stuff is just, and now we're just flaunting it. Can stuff be sold? Yes. Can stuff happen? Yes. But that's all going to play out in court. And a lot of it should, because you know how I feel. I don't love the way Erika's acting on social. I don't love some of this stuff from Richards on social either. I just don't. Oh, here's a better one of the earrings. They're massive. So she's going to argue and has been arguing that they are gifts. And under the California law, some gifts she might not have to give back. Do we always like the result of the law? No. Do I often like the way bankruptcies resolve things? No. No, I don't. Because the top of the bankruptcy line are the lenders who knew that they needed to file to protect the money that they loaned to Girardi Keese, not the clients who were harmed who didn't have another lawyer to advise them that that's what they needed to do. They are not at the front of the line. And that is the way that the law is written. And if you want to go, but Emily, that's fucked. How are people supposed to know? I hear you. I agree with you. There are rules to games sometimes. And when we don't all know the rules, we end up at a disadvantage. And bankruptcy court is absolutely one of those times. So Mike Megan said, and thank you for the super chat. Question, I support the First Amendment, but RR is giving exclusives, proven wrong, and getting paid after going after two young girls. The victims are not happy with them either. Maybe wrong lawyer, more of a clout chaser, seems ick. So he will get paid the way he will get paid based on the documents that have been filed in court, because this, the nice thing about bankruptcy is most of it's very transparent, is that any time and money he spends now is on him. He will get a percentage plus his costs of anything recovered from Erika. So he will get his costs, like hard costs. It costs $100 to file a document. It costs, $50 to get this or whatever. It costs this much to get an investigator to go do that. So those hard costs, then 40%, then the rest will go back to the law firm. So, yep. So that's what that is. Why did I think we weren't streaming tonight, Samantha? I don't know. Oh, because did I forget to text the text crew? I hope I didn't. I might have. If I forgot to text crew, I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. This happened and I apologize. I did not mean to. I think I might have. I am sorry, text crew. I love you. So let's see. Let's get to some more questions. River said, the comment was ableist as fuck and could discourage people from utilizing the appropriate mental health services for fear of it damaging their credibility if someone found out. I told you my opinion on it. I don't like it. And that's why I reached out and asked for comment, because we absolutely know. I mean, we've seen on Twitter, we know how Ron Richards feels about stuff. He has shared his opinion, but he's also questioning the credibility of someone who's going to be in court on the other side as this moves forward. And there is a pending appeal regarding it. So, and that's why I reached out and asked for comment from the other side, because I'm like, look, I'm curious. What I would like to hear your thoughts. So now we know both sides, and they're going to be locked at horns with each other, which I think down the road is going to make all of this take longer. And I don't know if that's what's best for those who want this bankruptcy to be done, so they know if they're getting paid or not. So question, if Richards can prove that Erika pierced the veil of her LLC, can't she be held accountable? Yep. And that is definitely something they are going for with the alter ego allegations in the second amended complaint. Absolutely. So let's see. And then we'll get to the next part of Girardi, and then we'll get to all of our questions. So thank you guys for the super chats. I am trying to keep up with them. I should care RR post this stuff, but I don't, because she has been so vile. I completely get it. I can't care about someone who plays victim while shoveling in caviar pie. It's completely fair. And I don't think the two excuse the other. I think there's the Erika we're seeing on social media, and then there's someone who's pending trial who also has rights. And so being able to divorce the two things from each other is difficult, because the behavior, when you're watching it play out on TV, you're like, no. And that can absolutely all come up, and probably will at some point. But that would come up in court, not necessarily just on Twitter. So it you know how I feel about it. So that's what it is. But I do understand the feeling. It's like, well, it's fine. She's an unpopular defendant, so whatever. The thing that's hard about rights and privacy rights is that even when you are, or someone is an unpopular defendant, they still have all the same rights as everybody else. And it's the same when we talk about the First Amendment. And we've talked about that. We talked about it on Tuesday. When we talk about the First Amendment, the speech that's hardest to protect is the speech that you don't like, and the speech that goes against everything in the core of your being. And a lot of times the cases come up around either hate speech or speech that can be around obscenity. And that's where a lot of the case law comes from, because that is the speech that rubs people the wrong way. So it's hard to learn how to be like, in this circumstance, like, yeah, but fuck her. But also, these are the rules. And that's one of the things that you do. So as a lawyer, you parse the two out. Which pawn art is sleeping in the chair? Fred. Fred has white. George doesn't. Oh, yeah, I did forget a text. I'm sorry, text crew. That's my bad. I thought I had scheduled it and I didn't. Didn't get a text. Yeah, that's my bad. Sorry. 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 Um, the notifications don't ever help. But sometimes Wakanda Forever said at this point, will the victims ever see a dime? Can the state make them whole? I don't even think there's a mechanism for the state making them whole. I don't know what will happen with the state bar. And I don't know what the victims will choose to do next. The bankruptcy really has to resolve first. So the bankruptcy has to resolve first. And I don't know. It looks like there's a lot more debt than there is assets. And that's a big concern, which is obviously why they're going out. It's part of why they're going after Erika. Look, if the law firm paid all of this on your benefit, any of it that we can get back needs to come back. Because if it's a loan, it should come. If it's a loan, the loan needs to be paid back. That money needs to go elsewhere. So I can completely understand going after the money, because that's what's supposed to happen in a bankruptcy. Is Patreon open? It is open. So yes, you can. Yes, you can. LawNerdsUnite.com. Let's get into the state bar stuff, and then I'll just get to questions because y'all have questions. I've got questions. We've all got questions. Question: would the lawyers, and yourself, do what Ron Richards does? I think Erika is a pretty disaster on Twitter, but how does Ron Richard not held responsible? It came up in court to remove him, and the court denied the motion and said it was completely without merit. I think everyone has to find their own ways. No, there are things that I would absolutely not be doing if I was the attorney in the case. That's my choice. But when the questions I have, and I have said in other commentary about other tweets when these motions came up, look, some of these are things I wouldn't tweet, but I don't know if it crosses that line. The financial records aren't court documents. I think there's a financial right to privacy. And the questioning the competency or the mental health is not, I don't think, when it comes to an opposing party, is not okay. I mean, we saw and evaluated a lot of this when it comes to the assaults without a crystal ball stuff that went on, and there was threats of bar complaints and investigations and rules of ethics, and the stuff that was going on Twitter was, does anyone have a recording of this? Has anyone seen this? I've heard this. Does anyone have this? And it was really investigative stuff. And even then people were like, really, why are we doing so much of the tweeting? Because I know there were people who didn't love that either. So everyone kind of finds their own way in this, and you have a right to speech, but also there are boundaries if you are involved directly in the case. So most of the lawyers that I'm super close with choose not to be on social, and a lot of them are still prosecutors, and they're just like, I'm not on social at all. We're not talking about that at all. So that's kind of what that is. All right, let us move into the state bar stuff. Okay, one more and then we're moving in. The Texas Phoenix here, my BFF, is married to a multimillionaire. I asked her. She said, you'll never know if your spouse is struggling if you're kept away from the books. Erika said she was kept away. Just saying. I mean, again, there are things I do not like that Erika has done in the public. Is that really where my feed froze? Thank you, YouTube. Thank you. There are things I do not like that have happened on social media. I think there are things that are in poor taste, that are not acknowledging the victims at all. I don't like it. However, as a party to a case, I wouldn't want Erika to be on social media either, but she's choosing to. And when she talks about the case, there's ability to respond to the case too. So if she initiates it, then there's room to respond to it. But it's just, there's a difference between shitty behavior on social, lacking empathy completely, and proof that she knew what Tom was doing and what was going on in the firm. And I've covered that a lot. It is tough, and we will see the proof as it comes out and see what she knew. But showing that the law firm was paying her personal Amex doesn't say that she knew. It says to me that she benefited. Because again, The financial records say he's making $40 million a year. Would you ask where the money's coming from? It's like, you made $40 million a year. How is the money gone? That's what we all want to know. Where's the money? I want to know where the money went and what the other lawyers at the firm knew. So that's what I want to know. And if Erika benefited and some of that money needs to go back, it needs to go back. Absolutely. And I hope it does. Would statements like, I'm not allowed to buy my own jewelry on the show go to support the gifts arguments? Yes, I think her team will argue that. Absolutely. So let us go to what's going on with the state of California Supreme Court and Tom Girardi, and then we'll just get all the way into questions because it's been like an hour and 30 minutes. Thank you, Cat Mac. Don't forget to do the YouTube things for sure, for sure, for sure. All right. And this is another article that comes to us from Law 360, but we also have the petition from the Supreme Court. So let's talk about Tom Girardi. Well, kind of. Let's talk about the LA Times and the state bar and Tom Girardi all together. So what is happening? The state Supreme Court, look, their margins are still pretty thick. They're not quite as thick, but they are still pretty thick, these margins. The state Supreme Court of California is actually having a hearing. They are going to have an order to show cause why the state bar shouldn't make public all of the investigations of Tom Girardi. So this is the LA Times trying to get information from the state bar with regard to Tom Girardi. And the court was like, yo, let's have a hearing. Why is it? And I talked about this a little on the Members Only Live last night. What the Supreme Court really wants to be briefed on is why the state bar kept the records sealed or private, and if that's really in the best interest of the public when no disciplinary action was taken. And I feel like the argument here is really the shit's already out of the horse. There's no grounds to protect the public from not unsealing these. There's no reason to not make them public because who are you protecting if you don't make these public? And I imagine that the argument from the LA Times will be, are you protecting yourself? So the LA Times is trying to get to the heart of what investigations happened, even when there was no disciplinary action taken, and why. Because the LA Times has really been hammering this case and digging into what was done, the parties that happened. The investigative reporting has been intriguing, truly, and has turned up quite a lot more questions, right? Of what was there impropriety here? And what was it? And how much of it there was? And what it affected? And what the state bar did or did not do? And how much they knew? And how many complaints were there really? So back in June, the LA Times asked the state high court to compel the state bar to publicly release files concerning investigations or proceedings involving Girardi, saying the information is needed to restore public confidence in California's systems of attorney discipline after the newspaper reported on Girardi's close relationships with bar officials, according to the petition. The state bar, for the first time on March 30th, filed disciplinary charges. We went through those here. I think we will see they have moved to disbar him. The federal courts have disbarred him. I think we will see that moving forward. The LA Times said that given Girardi's longstanding close relationship with state bar officials and his prominence in California legal circles, these questions have profound significance for public trust in the state's legal regulatory system. The LA Times said that when it asked for the relevant documents under California Business and Professions Code 6086.1b2, the state bar refused, saying that the statute only applies to pending investigations. The newspaper argues that there's no basis for that position, according to its petition. And the Supreme Court said, you know what? We would like to hear what you have to say. So all of the briefing is due October 1st. And we will see what the state bar and or Tom Girardi, he's the party in interest, but I don't think we're going to hear from him. He has not responded to the state bar filings. And which document? I'm trying to remember which document it was. I think it was the federal court documents. It could have been the state bar documents. It was one of the disbarment filings where they attached all the emails. I think it was the state bar. They attached the emails back and forth with Tom's attorney. And he said, we tried to tender resignation and we are not responding any further. So based on that in a similarly situated legal proceeding. I would be surprised if we saw Tom Girardi respond. I imagine that the state bar will respond. The state bar gave a statement to Law 360 on Wednesday saying that it's looking forward to the high court's consideration and guidance on the issues. Oh, I imagine. And what they didn't say is they are likely thankful that those who were directly involved years ago are no longer there. They went on to say, including on the California Business and Professions Code 6086.1, which it believes prevents the release of the information. But if the court requires it, then they can disclose it, and it's what it is. They said if the court concedes that the law does grant discretion to the state bar to reveal some or all of the information to the LA Times, then the bar will release the special audit regarding closed Girardi files to the extent allowed under the court's ruling. And wouldn't we all like to see it? Don't we all want to see what the state bar was up to? I sure do. The state bar will make that disclosure if permitted in the interest of transparency in this unusual situation. So this will be argued after October 1st. The documents will be filed. I will continue to cover them. I'm very interested. And though I will give a fair bit of grief to the mainstream media, there are two recent filings where I am really thankful that media companies are putting the weight of their finances behind fighting these things in court. USA Today is fighting for transparency in the Britney case, and the LA Times is fighting for transparency with the state bar in this case. Independent commentators, independent outlets are not going to have the weight of the finances. And even though traditional media is financially struggling, the fight for transparency in the courts, I think, is an important one, because at least then we can understand what is happening, even when we disagree with it. There are things I disagree with, and I'm like, I mean, I get why you did it. I don't like it, but I understand it. And if we can understand, then we can start to make change. So that is what's going on with the state bar. I am going to get to super chats and questions. I try to answer questions that are not just super chats. We have time to do so. So I have questions. You have questions. We have questions. Let's get to questions. Told you I was going to go quick on the state bar stuff. The mods are like, bitch, that might actually have been quick. You might have actually been fast. There might actually still be time for questions. Thank you for the super sticker. Yes, I think who got bored? George got bored. Fred's still asleep. So absolutely. I am trying to get to questions. If you will put question in the question box, it will make it easier for me to see. And we will see. Let's see. What is the question? Where was Keese in all of this? Keese has been retired and is suing the law firm and Tom Girardi, and is one of the creditors seeking reimbursement, but he has been retired for quite a number of years. So that is happening. This is a statement from Lillian. The Girardis will never be held accountable. The people that run the state of California are in their back pockets. While I believe that part of that is true, also the Edelson PC filing in the Illinois case brought down the rage of the judge in Illinois, who was the one who initially froze Tom Girardi's assets, referred it for prosecution, and is trying to hold, or is at least not trying to hold, the other lawyers are trying to hold, but is having a contempt hearing with regard to other lawyers in Girardi Keese to say, literally, what the fuck? Why didn't these clients get paid? What did you know? And those attorneys are like, we didn't have access to the books. We don't know anything. The bankruptcy trustee has all the books. We didn't know. So the other lawyers are going to be arguing, essentially, we didn't know. But I think moving some of these proceedings out of California is what cracked this open, in addition to cases slowing down with COVID, creditors getting frustrated, and all of the other factors. But yes, this is not just a California issue. I'm sure the IRS is like, what now? We're curious. And I think that federal prosecutors, it's already been referred to them, and they're not in California. So while there might be stuff in the state of California that we're like, why did that go on for so long? This is bigger than that now. So I don't know how much that will help down the road, seeing that Tom Girardi is in his 80s, allegedly has Alzheimer's, and is in a, in a conservatorship. I don't know how much it will help. Kibby said, here we go. He's already pleading the fifth. He did. Tom Girardi pled the fifth in, and we covered it here. He pled the fifth in the contempt hearing already. So yes, but it has been referred for prosecution. So it's fair to say, look, this is potentially the subject of a criminal investigation. So it's fair. Renee B said, I personally enjoy watching Richards make her so uncomfortable, her Erika, that she is bothered enough to continuously get her attorneys to waste money going to court to protect her ruined reputation. And Renee, I completely understand that. I know that there are people that are like, you know what? I hate what she did, so fuck it. My only concern is when there are potential issues that, excuse me, when there are potential issues, the financial documents, the commenting on the mental health. The rest of it, it's like, the court said it's not a problem. They didn't have a problem with it. I mean, you do you, but it can't be win at all costs. So, that's what it is. Is it an issue that Erika said she's known for years that Tom had declined mentally while still having these bills paid? She would know he's not able to earn the money ethically. That's a really good question. I don't know what obligation and duty she has as a wife to bring that up if she did believe he was slipping. I mean, Sutton seems to think that that's all a coordinated effort, but if she saw that, she said on the show, I believe that she was asking other lawyers, and I don't know if it was other lawyers at the firm, but she said in one of her confessionals, like, I was asking if people were noticing it. And then when this came up, that in the Edelson PC contempt proceedings against Tom, the lawyer said, I don't think he fully really understands what's going on. Erika said on the show, I'm glad somebody else is seeing it. So I don't know. She did say, God, when they were in Tahoe, it feels like 100 years ago, that she wished somebody would have taken his bar card. So it's an interesting, I have not really thought about it because I don't know if she thought he was unable to practice law or shouldn't practice law, and if she's obligated. I'm also curious about what the lawyers in his firm knew, because they did owe a legal duty to the clients. And I just wonder about that. So Emma C said, yo, let's have a hearing is not how I think of the court expressing themselves. It's absolutely not how they are expressing themselves. Occasionally, one of the judges I worked for was kind of very jovial and kind of colloquial. One of them was very, very by the book and very proper. So one of them I would have been like, yo, this is what's going on with this. Here's the what. The other one, I was like, good afternoon, Your Honor. I have briefed these issues for you, and this is what's happening on this summary judgment motion. Thank you so much. But some judges are very fun. So, and while not saying that on the record, would be like, yeah, we just need to go to hearing. Like, we just need to do it. I've told you guys stories about, oh God, no, I don't think I've told that story. It's not a good story. But I had a judge when I was in a chambers conference who is a very, very colloquial judge who was cursing about something. And then he looked at me, he was like, oh, Ms. Baker, I am sorry. I do not curse in front of the ladies. And I was like, Your Honor, it's literally fine. Like, I curse all the fucking time. And he was like, it was pretty funny. But yeah, he had a whole moment, and then he was like, oh, and I was like, no, it's okay. Like, I'm a woman. I can handle it. It's all right. I can be a woman and a lawyer and like not have my ears bleed if somebody says cursey words. It's totally fine. Hello, Bulgaria. Good to see you. Nancy, thank you so much. We are trying to break stuff down. So, yep. Question: if Tom Girardi has been diagnosed with dementia, what value is there to disbar him? Jill, the value there isn't. His license is already suspended. He's in a conservatorship. He practically cannot practice law. I think a lot of it is too little too late. And I asked about this when he got federally disbarred. Does it feel like too little too late? It's definitely an ego hit. It definitely is one of those things that will be on the books. Like, this is what went down here. So I think perhaps it is I hate to say ceremonial, but I can't think of another word. It's procedural, I guess is the right word. At this point, this is what should happen, and so this is what is going to happen. But no, there's no practical purpose to it at this point. Mooney Magoo, today, it's a special day. Today, my daughter was born on my birthday. Can I please get a big shout out for from the great EDB for Tatum's 13th, and I'm 45. I love how you try and say my username. I get it all the time. No, today it's Moni Magoo, not Mooney Magoo. Happy birthday, Monica, and happy birthday to Tatum. Both of you, giant shout outs. I hope it is a lovely birthday for you both. I have a 13-year-old as well. Godspeed to the next year of teenage years. So happy birthday. Gloria is saying the longer it takes, the more he makes Ron Richards. No, actually. So with regard to that, it's a contingency agreement. So as long as it takes is as long as it takes. But it will cost Erika more. And if she's spending more in legal fees, then I don't know how much is left to repay, if anything's owed to repay. But he gets 40% of whatever's collected plus costs. So the 40% of whatever's collected is 40% of whatever is collected. If that happens, there was a small timing provision on the percentages as they change. And I covered that when I covered that video on the appointment, but it's not an hourly rate. It is just a flat percent of what's recovered. If nothing's recovered, then it's nothing. So that's a risk in any contingency case. Question: can a lawyer be sued for defamation of character because all allegations against Lisa Rinna and her daughter have been proven false? Love you and your openness. Oh, it's such an interesting question. So a lawyer by profession can be sued for things. A lawyer acting in the scope of their duty is often covered by litigation privilege or other privileges, depending on what they are. So in this case, the statement was, we have no reason not to believe. So if that's the statement, is it a direct statement? It's a statement regarding a public figure. It probably wasn't malicious towards the girls at all. So can there be defamation there? I don't really think so, because I think litigation privilege is going to cover it because it has to be a non-privileged statement. And with regard to the girls that are public figures, you have to show actual malice. I don't think it was a malicious statement. I think it was we can't show it's not them, so we're going to keep reaching for these ties, even though they had the documents and, Google. So no, not in this circumstance, but in other circumstances, a lawyer in their own life saying things that can happen. I mean, if it were actual defamation. So I hope that helps and makes sense. Question: can Tom leave the country? I don't know how that would happen. I don't know if they took his passport, but I also don't know what good it would do because his assets are all attached. I mean, I can't think of a circumstances where he would, but even if he did, this still goes forward against his estate and all of his stuff. I don't know who's paying for his living expenses or how. We did see in the financial that his brother got paid quite a lot of money from the law firm, but that's not the brother that's his conservator. So I don't know. Once they sell the house keeps dropping in price and is not selling. Once they sell the house, it will be interesting to see what goes from there. I would be surprised. I mean, with the conservatorship and everything, if the conservatorship's not bullshit, I don't know if he would be able to leave the country. And then you've got COVID and everything else. Like, where do you go if you don't have the money to do it? So I don't know. So Michelle said, can you explain how it's already September? No, I don't know. I don't know what happened, but I'm happy for the pumpkin cream cold brew of it all. I feel like it was just last week when we were having Christmas Eve. Yeah, I feel like it was too. This last year has gone very fast for me. I mean, I started streaming more last September with the Kanye West stuff. That's been like a year. I just yeah, I don't know. I don't know how it's been a year. I don't know how we're here. Everything has been weird in, like, the entire world since last September. I feel like since 2019, I just don't know what day it is most of the time. It's been very strange. Question: Vulcans and technicalities. What did Pierce practice if not criminal law? Well, he has a very instructive website. And it looked like he was doing white collary financially stuff. And the Law 360 article did a great job of kind of breaking down his background, but I also went and looked at the Viva Fry video about it when they were talking about that briefly and said that he did not have a history in criminal law. I would love to know what Natalie Lawyer Chicks thinks of that. Like, criminal law is very specific, and taking on high profile cases in the federal system, I think, would be very difficult. So Isabella said, question: as far as the Richards tweets, the court said no grounds for his removal. Does the finality of the denial seem suspicious? No, the court did not find the motion well taken. The stuff that was admitted didn't have a foundation for it. They have appealed it. We'll see what happens with the appeal. But no, the court made a very definitive statement. Judges, I think we saw this a bit in the Washington defamation case with Tati as well, where the judge is like, what I don't want to do in this case is have all of you having a sideshow. It is a very busy bankruptcy case. It is a very busy bankruptcy court. So I can understand a judge being like, la, 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 forest, trees. There is a lot going on here, and y'all aren't going to be fighting in my court. Stop it. Stop it right now. So that's how I said it. That's how I read it. Question: did Tom have great influence over the state bar and the disciplinary board and now the governor? The LA Times article that came out, God, quite a while ago, really broke down his relationship with the state bar and alludes to that very strongly. Not currently. There has definitely been a changing of the guard, but it seems like that's a potential for why this went on for so long based on the reporting from the LA Times. So there's still a lot of questions with regard to what was going on with the bar, and that will be looked into. Because I'll tell you what, when you go to law school, they're like, a penny goes out of line, you're going to get disbarred. Like, there is like a fear of God with regard to the money. And so it's just wild about it. Question: will the Theranos trial be televised? I have not looked to see if it is being televised. I've only read print reporting of it. I did not look, so I do not know. I would be curious if snippets of it were or were not, but I did not see. It's interesting. They're also arguing whether or not she will be allowed to have a mask on or off because she wants to humanize herself, I'm sure, wants the jury to see her face. It's easier to convict someone if you dehumanize them. This is why you see name calling and things like dehumanizing is such a nefarious way to kind of other people. So it eases guilt. It's like, oh, this person's that. So it's easy to convict them. I think that anything a criminal defendant can do to kind of humanize themselves and make themselves more appealing to a jury. Like, look, I'm kind of just like you. I think where Elizabeth Holmes is going to struggle with that is she's not just like your average juror. She made tons and tons of money, lived a fairly lavish lifestyle, came from a very well-off upbringing, had a larger than life, very bold persona, and now is trying to rein it back in. I don't know if I don't know how jurors will resonate with that or if they will sniff out the bullshit. So, why on earth do we call court cases games? It's beyond concerning. The Girardi case seems like a joke, but aspects of people's lives are at stake. Because I don't know how to better explain that there are rules. There are rules. There are rules to court. There are rules to how you do the thing. But yes, court is often referred to as like a chess match. So when we talk about games, that there is gamesmanship in defending. Litigation is definitely strategic And there is definitely gamesmanship to litigation with very real consequences, but it is a point well taken. Any news on the Girardi house sale? I have not seen any, but I think Kempire was in the chat, and I'm sure there are others that might know. So if anybody knows, share with us. I keep just seeing the prices going down. I worry for the former clients of Tom Girardi that are further down the line. I really do. I really, really worry. So we'll see. When I saw the statement of assets versus liabilities, I mean, it looks like 4 million in assets and over 100 million in liabilities. Like, not everyone is going to get paid, I don't think, and that concerns me. And and I imagine that that's one of the hardest things for people to watch. We saw in The Hustler and the Housewife, Kimberly Archie and Miss Kathy Rui Gomez talking about watching the show and being like, "Oh, is that where the money that was supposed to go to us went?" And I know that there are victims that are going to be sitting there going, "Is this what it was all for?" Whether Erika knew that that's the direct source of funds or not, I can't imagine anyone not feeling that way, because that is a valid question. Is this what it was all for? Because no, with 4 million in assets and 100 million in liabilities, no, not everyone is going to get their money. At least not on those numbers. Those numbers could change. What the trustee said is that this was based off of everything that they could find, and they have not started doing those exams yet where they get to do like a deposition of accountants and start to figure out where it is. So I saw the other question from Britain. Wouldn't Girardi Keese have had accountants? Yes, the accountant pled the fifth. They are trying to get information from the accountant. Shouldn't they have said or done something? Accountants, I know we have accountants in the chat. Accountants also have a duty. I don't know I'm not well versed on what their fiduciary duty is, but yes, accountants can at least help now explain where the money went. I mean, at a minimum, can't we start there? We should start there. Question. Lord Croco Squirrel. Hello. Does Tom have insurance? It does not seem that he had liability insurance. And I know that it has been mentioned, I believe, by Kimberly Archie, but possibly others, that he did not carry liability insurance. So Erika said the other lawyers at the firm were calling her and telling her she needs to do something. They needed to do something too. They're the ones who can go to court and be like, Your Honor, we have an issue. But yeah, there's a lot of problems here with the Girardi case, and it's going to hopefully change things and hopefully make it clear to lawyers like, hey, at some point you have to say something. But also for people who want to keep working, do you call out a figure who's like, I built you bitches? This is my speculation. Do you call out someone that's larger than life, or do you just cut and run? Even his son-in-law left, and a lot of people left the firm. But when his son-in-law left, like, how do you not do something? Like, a lawyer in the firm related to the family also in a position to do something. So, I mean, a lot failed here, and a lot had been failing for a long time. Like, these debts didn't just come in the last couple of years. This has been going on. And when I covered this originally, there are cases that go back well over a decade with regard to these allegations. So, yes, especially with his son-in-law. Yes, exactly. Particularly with his son-in-law. So, thank you, Kibby. Will his paralegal and legal assistant be deposed? I imagine that the bankruptcy trustee will want to do the exams of everyone who could help explain where the money went. I don't know how much people will know, but yes, it can absolutely come up. Where did it go? We know that over the time period, 2008 to 2020, that like 14 million was spent on American Express cards. Okay, well, if he's making 40 million a year, I mean, not every year, but let's see. I think I can pull this up real quick. Hold on. Did you just get cat hair on my lip gloss? Yes. Yes, you did. Let me pull up. I have that financial statement, and I just wanted to pull up the payments for the last few years. Because it's like, okay, what percentage of what? And would they have even known if the lawyers at his firm are telling the federal court that they don't know what the books say? Would the legal assistants and paralegal at the firm, would they know? And what would they know? So let's see if this is the right schedule. Fred, hello. You are very needing attention. I'm still streaming. I will be done soon. I will be done soon, my love. I can't pet you and mouse. Hi. We're just a big cuddly kitten at the moment, aren't we? Aren't we? Yeah, hi. Oh, there we go. That's the right one. Let's pull it up. Let's pull it up. You know, you're getting heavy, you big boy. You are. We have a paw nerd interruption. So in the schedule of assets and liabilities, this is not the one that breaks down the years. Total of all property, $4 million. This is why if there was $25 million that went to Erika that could come back to the bankruptcy, they want it. Because $4 million in assets, $101 million in liabilities. Let me pull up the other one. So it's number 2. It's not. We need the second one, Fred. Thanks. Next time, can you just remind me that the one I'm looking for is the second one? That would be super great. Yeah, thanks. He's like, no, I cannot. Hopefully it's this one. Yay, this is the right one. It only took 2 tries. So this goes through the amount he was paid each year for the last 3 years that they were looking at. So when we're looking at what people might have known, in 2018, they're looking at gross revenue of $46 million. And then in 2019, $31 million. And then in 2020, $12 million. But also pandemic and all of this started to crack open. So there's a lot of money. Where it all went is going to be a critical question. Ben Mindy T, yes. Happy birthday. You absolutely can. Kibby, yes, thank you. Questions help because otherwise it's very, very hard for me to distinguish, especially when there's over 3,600 of you in here, so it's hard. Kimberly Archie said Tom's son-in-law was to take over the firm if Tom could no longer perform, yet they have left him in power despite the dementia. Someone is going to have to explain some of this stuff at some point, and there's a hearing that's going to be happening at least in one court regarding that. So Lyra had access to the trust accounts, and even if he had the access to the trust account, he might not have known what was going on in the books, but should have at least seen the money disappearing if it was disappearing, which is what the state bar alleged. Do you think Erika is putting herself in the scenes where they talk about the case? Do you think it's a plan with her lawyers or organic material? I don't know a lot about how production works on the Housewives shows. I think whenever Erika's there, they're going to bring it up. It's the elephant in the room. But Erika, I mean, from what she said on the show, assuming that it is true for the purpose of hyperbole, of speculation, Erika's bringing in money from what? She's not going to be making music videos. It seemed that the law firm was funding those. So we're not going to be seeing new music. She has a book. She has the show. She said that she left the marriage with nothing except like the champagne flutes in her clothes. So she kind of has to secure her position on the show. And then whatever sponsorships and stuff she does on social, she was working with Fenty and what have you. So the thing is, if Erika gets fired from the show, and if there's a bankruptcy judgment against her, how does she then pay it? So her staying on the show, if there is a judgment against her, I think would feed into her being able to pay it, because what's there to attach if there's nothing? And then if somebody else helps support her, we've seen some of the women offer her money and support, that really can't be attached. So yes. Debbie said, hi from Australia. This is great info. Thank you, Debbie. I hope so. This cat is desperate to lay on my keyboard right now. Smart travel. It might have future lawyers think twice if they care about their legacy. I mean, there's just some things that you cannot do. And Tom Girardi seemed to do a lot of them. from all of these, I mean, not even allegations, from some of the things that have been proven. Where are Tom's children? I don't know. How come they haven't come forward to their father's side? I don't know if we don't know they haven't. I don't know if he ends up in a facility, if they won't be the ones paying. We just don't know. So I just don't know. So question, what happens if Erika was actually bankrupt from this? Would she still have to repay it? It depends. And this we've talked about a couple times. Part of the allegations in the amended complaint are that there were fraudulent transfers, because there are certain things that cannot be discharged in bankruptcy, fraud falling into those categories, tax liens and stuff like that. But yes, if this bankrupts Erika too, some things could be discharged in that. If she's like, there's nothing, there's no property to sell other than what she has. And there might not be much there. We don't know. I mean, other than the champagne flutes. Will whatever can be recovered go to the victims first or to the debtors? Well, the victims are also debtors in this, and it will go their creditors. Tom Girardi being the debtor. So to the creditors, it will go in the order of priority. Secured creditors, priority, non-secured creditors, non-secured creditors. Unfortunately, a lot of the clients seem to be in the non-secured creditor category based on the filings that the bankruptcy trustee has put together. And that was what, 500 pages that the bankruptcy trustee put together. I mean, there is a lot of work. There is definitely a lot of work happening with the bankruptcy trustee putting those together. Robbie, question about the statement with the girls. I think I covered it earlier. Some things are covered by litigation privilege, and there is an argument it can be made in the course of litigation. Also, they're public figures. And again, it doesn't seem malicious. Like, shade is not malice. It also doesn't seem reputationally damaging to them to just say, oh, we have no reason to believe the money didn't go there. So I think it's, yeah, that's why. Hopefully I explained it. Question, if Tom passes away, does all of the financial responsibility fall to Erika, including the law firm financial issues? Everything's in the bankruptcy estate. So really, it would just keep operating in the bankruptcy estate. So it would just, the estate would keep operating. She'd be responsible for what she's responsible for and not responsible for what she's not responsible for. So, BLM3 said Erika gets paid from Real Housewives of Beverly Hills, author. So the books Dancing with the Stars would have been passed. Broadway would have been passed. So if she has any money managing smarts, she should be fine. Well, she said on the show she wasn't managing any of her own books or her company books. So I don't know. Any court of public opinion tonight? Thank you. We've been 2 hours, and yes, Arlene, we are. And we're going to get that in just a moment. So yes. Question, last one, promise. Who gets paid first and last in the bankruptcy? What's the order? We went through that with the financial documents. So secured creditors, priority non-secured creditors, and then non-secured creditors. So the order of priority with regard to the secured creditors was not listed out in the last filing, but we'll get there. They are trying to resolve things, and the bankruptcy trustee has been trying to resolve things. So, friendly neighborhood cryptid. I'm going to just not do that well. Apologies. Question, can you explain what is going on with Todd Chrisley and Without a Crystal Ball? Sorry if you've already covered it. I haven't already covered it. I don't know. What I saw was that it looked like a subpoena had been issued. I saw that on Twitter. And then I don't know if her lawyer has tried to, you can contest the subpoena and say, I don't have to show up for this reason, that reason, try to quash the subpoena. So I don't know if that's been resolved yet, but it looked like a subpoena for a deposition, which I think is what he had shared on his podcast. But there's been so much going on that I have honestly not paid a lot of attention. The Texas Phoenix said, wait, was the house not paid off? The house had a whole bunch of liens on it. So there are a lot of liens. You guys are saying Kim Archie's in the chat. Hello, Kim Archie. Question off topic. No. But what recourse would Matt have? Is J Pen to nice as Matthew Rosengart. Sorry. What recourse would Matthew Rosengart have if Judge Penny denies his motion in September? Can he appeal? Can he take it up with a higher court? Yes, you can appeal. It depends on if she makes a ruling or just kicks it down the road, and we will see what happens. I am way behind on the chat, and we need to get to COPO because my voice is tired. My cat is just getting wild. And text crew again. I'm sorry, I didn't text crew. That is just, I can't believe it. I rarely forget. I like to think of feline pondered attacks as catastrophes. Oh Lord, Croco Scroll. When my dog does it, it's a pupstruction. Yeah, Fred is just trying to knock everything off of my desk. Question. Can the money ever be followed completely, or is this one of those things where the money is gone and can't be traced? I don't know. I think it's going to be hard. Bankruptcy trustee Miller definitely said that in her motion said that this was going to be difficult because of the state of the accounting, but they're going to try. I mean, that is what they are there for. So it just depends on record keeping. And the one thing I found in doing fraud cases and doing white collar crime cases as a DA is cash is hard to track. Everything else you can normally get to it at some point. So cash being the most difficult. And if large sums of cash come out, you can see that too. You just don't know exactly where it went, but you can see that it came out. Okay. Fred, you are just. Has there been any word on the 2 planes? No, but it seems that the companies that own the planes were named. So I don't know if the planes were owned, leased, in group with other things. I think we will keep seeing it, but I don't know if there's any value there. Like the cars were leased and the leases were just given up by the trustee. It's like, just take it back. There's no value there. So I don't know. Yeah, I don't know what's happening with those. We've made mention of GNL Aviation for sure. Q, Real Housewives of Beverly Hills. What are your thoughts on Sutton and her opinions of Erika? I mean, Sutton, I don't know. It's so hard with production because you don't know what else has been said. But Sutton has questions and she wants to have questions and she's asking questions. She's asking hard questions and she wants to know. And Sutton's like, I feel like Erika lied to us. I feel like there were these lies by omission. She didn't give us all of the information. And I think all of us have questions. Erika hasn't answered them. I don't know if Erika can answer a lot of the questions. And that is a real thing too. And Sutton's probably aware of that. So, does Erika maybe feel like she's being set up by, I can't answer all of this, but you're going to keep asking it? Yep. Was Sutton right to be like, I'm concerned about how this all looks on me? I think Sutton is right to choose for herself. Like, look, it doesn't. And you saw how Erika responded. She's like, you're either with me or against me. Mount up. And I think a lot of people have questions. So I mean, I have questions. I think y'all have questions. Lawyer Cap, please. Oh, we need to get back to court of public opinion. How many likes are we at? We might have to Lawyer Cat. Y'all have hung with me. It's been a busy week. We've done a lot of streams this week. I've streamed with vidIQ this week. We did a members only stream this week. We did an extra Britney stream this week. We did Coffee and Chrissy Words. We did live. We have streamed so much. So, all right, let's get to court of public opinion. Shall we? This court of public opinion comes from friend of the channel, Amy Yost. And I got another one on Twitter, and that's going to be court of public opinion next week. I can't choose that much violence today. We've already chose violence tonight with this. So court of public opinion, y'all just look. Warning. This is said with sarcasm. This topic might be triggering. We're all respectful adults here, and we can talk about it. Sometimes there's a right way and a wrong way, and we might not all agree on it. So we need to talk it out. Court of public opinion. Butter, fridge, or counter? And we can put up a poll. Tech, butter, fridge, or counter, or fridge or room temperature, I think is fair. Fridge or counter for butter, because I definitely have an opinion. Diva and I were talking about this before the stream. I can see the argument for counter. It is soft, it is spreadable, but also it's warm. It gets warm. Stop trying to eat my fingernail. No, we like the nails. We like the nails. So does Fred. He's like, I just want to chew on your nails. This tends to be what I do. Room temp for baking, fridge for others. I do not just leave the butter on the counter. We do not have like a butter dish with a lid. We do not have like a butter pig. It stays in the fridge. But fridge, especially in the summer. I mean, yes, both mostly fridge. Doesn't it go bad? Unsalted butter fridge, salted butter count. There's a difference? I never even thought about that. I never even thought that it might matter if it's salted or unsalted. Z, you raise an excellent point. I never even considered that. Never, ever. Fridge, but if making cookies, counter, it definitely has to get softened. I'm not talking about getting it ready for something. I'm talking about as a matter of course. Kat, you can't put your head through my microphone cord. You are stuck. As a matter of course, where do you keep your butter? Where do you keep it? Do you keep it on the counter? Do you keep it in the fridge? Yes, it needs to be softened before you bake. Absolutely. Counter, both. My husband is English and he says counter. I say fridge, I win. Both fridge, counter. I use vegan butter and that's in the fridge. Allie, I would absolutely imagine that vegan butter has to. I need a both option. Fridge, I have more storage in the fridge than on the counter. That's fair. Fridge, but take out ahead of time to soften before eating. Yeah, because you definitely need to soften it before you spread it. Counter but covered. Counter except in the summer. I mean, summer is a real situation. Both. Let's see. What else? Microwave helps. I do not soften my butter in the microwave. I always worry about it. So yes. Oil blend butter so it's spreadable from the fridge. Then that's a fridge. Fridge, just take it out a few minutes before and it's spreadable, or so it's spreadable. Depends on the season. I live in Los Angeles. It'd be mostly melted if it was out full time. Yes, we experience that too. Counter, except in the summer. No butter lake, please. Depends on climate, but counter where I live. I live in the South, fridge. The thing I discovered moving to the South that I had never seen before, and we are going to have to go, this cat is definitely like, I'm ready to eat. I'm ready to do the things. Can we be done? One of the things I didn't know is that at Thanksgiving, you can go and get all of the little like carved butter turkeys and little like carved butter things. I had never seen that in a grocery store in Southern California. So I was very happy to find them. And those I think you would have to keep in the fridge until it is like time for dinner because they need to stay all pretty. So we tried to do a butter pig and it did not go well. My husband hated it. He's like, fridge, 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 fridge. So it's in a jar. If it's in a jar, I think it could go on the counter, right? That might make sense. Fridge, covered, has to be covered. Keep it in the fridge. It's dairy. If it's dairy based, take out of the fridge if you need it for cooking and baking. See, this makes all the sense. Yes. Butter on the counter in a butter bell. I thought they were butter pigs. Are they called butter bells? The things that go in the water and then you flip them open and scoop them out? Maybe they are called butter bells. Fantastic. Big difference. Diva is like, I am done with this court of public opinion. It goes on the counter. Thank you, Diva. Counter, hate ripped toast. I mean, I hate ripped toast too, but I don't toast in the toaster. I toast in the oven. So then I just put pats of the butter on the bagel or English muffin or whatever, and then pop it back into the oven and it melts. Mitchell, people keep butter on the counter. Yes, lots of them. Lots of them. Salt reduces boiling temperature. Salted butter melts quicker. Okay. Yes, this cat right now is literally killing me. Counter forever. Unsalted fridge, salted counter. A lot of y'all are saying it. I keep one stick on the counter and the rest in the fridge. I mean, that makes sense. You would store what you're using on the counter. Like The butter that you use, where do you store it? I think that I can, I think that now we have like refined the question. You guys have heard I don't know whose quote this is, about like, if I have an hour to solve a problem, I'll spend 50 minutes trying to figure out what the question is and then 10 minutes solving it. I think we've now refined the question to the butter that you use, do you keep it in the fridge or on the counter? And not for just baking, like for daily use. So let's go ahead and close the poll. Thank you, Tech. We'll see what y'all say, and then we're going to wrap up. It's been so long. It depends if it's pasteurized or not. Wisconsin is the dairy state. I never even thought about butter that's not pasteurized. I guess I really don't pay attention. I'm like, we buy the same butter all the time, and I put it in my coffee. Well, I told you how I do it, Kim. I melt it, but I think others take it out, leave it, and then do it. I need a butter bell now. Now I'm curious. Now I kind of want a butter bell. I might need to just make that happen. Can I say like, oh, I moved to the South, so now I need a butter bell? All right, 600 of y'all voted, 72% fridge, 27% counter. All right, we'll refine the question and we'll go ask it on social media and we will rule on it for sure. Carved turkeys are everything. I'm going to have to get one this holiday season just for fun because I just can't wait. You guys, thank you for hanging with me tonight. There have been well over 3,000 of you on, and I absolutely appreciate you for being law nerds. I appreciate you for having the hard conversations, for valuing facts, not fuckery. I hope you are well. Have a great Labor Day weekend for those of you in the US. Hopefully you get to take a break. I will be back on Tuesday, and then I am hopping on a plane, so there will be no Friday Night Live next Friday night, unless my travel plans change. Because it seems like something is going on with the Dave Matthews Band, and I am going to go onto the Twitters and figure out what it is. So I will see you next time. Thank you. Connect with me everywhere. I'm at the Emily D. Baker. If you guys want to join the text, just text Emily.com. If you want to join the channel, lawnerdsunite.com. Happy to have you. Support what we do here on the YouTube.